we are all here and can begin. Let's call this meeting to order for an extra agenda. Okay, thank you. Just a roll call. First on our agenda is the approval of last month's minutes. Are there any questions or comments?
I have one tweet.
Mhm.
Typo in our
You already gave it to
administrator.
Perfect. Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Awesome. March minutes are approved. And now we have our public invited to be heard segment. Do we have members of our public who would like to be heard?
Oh, no, not me.
No? Okay. Nobody?
So, if you would just maybe
Yeah,
introduce
you
yourself,
can
whether you want
introduce
to
yourself,
comment or not. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is Rick Sabetta.
Mhm.
I've been a resident in Longmont for a little bit more than 2 years.
Mhm.
I'm here quite frequently. It's a great facility. I really like it. I like the way your staff functions and operates and responds. I'm curious to know how the community is going to respond to what I'm anticipating to be inevitable impact from funding cuts,
Mhm.
how that will trickle down to the local level. And I also want to see if there's an opportunity to contribute to the library in a different way. I know on the city's website, they indicate that if you're interested in being on one of the advisory boards for any number of facilities in the city, that you should attend a meeting and find out what's going on. So that's why I'm here.
Well, welcome. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Can I pipe
You can.
Okay.
Are you a member of the public?
I'm a member of the public. Rick, I'm here. I'm president of the Friends of the Longmont Library, and our organization is a nonprofit. We raise money to fund all the programs that the library cannot get from the city. So we fund all of the authors that come to visit, all the children's programs, many of the children's programs, not all of them, but many of the children's programs. The tickets you get to any of the museums and so forth that the public can get for free. The computers upstairs, we've paid for that. The 3D printers, all those things that the city doesn't find interest in funding, we fund that. So when somebody wants to contribute money to the library that actually goes to the library and doesn't go to the city coffers, they can donate it to the Friends of the Longmont Library, and they can be sure that all that money goes to the actual library rather than the city funds.
Right, a specified appropriation.
Yes.
Just for-
So we're a nonprofit, and we've been operating in the city of Longmont for 41 years. So we're actually having our annual meeting on Saturday, interestingly enough, and you're sure invited to come.
Okay.
And it's from
Is
1
that
to
here?
3. Yeah, we have the big room here, from 1 to 3. And here's our information about us.
Oh, okay.
And you can, could I just write down my, I'll just give you
I'm so glad that you're here to talk about this. It was one of the things I was going to bring up because I'm out of town this weekend and we wanted to see if any of the other advisory board members could attend. So I'm really glad that you came in person and are sharing this. Thank you.
So, and we're always looking for interested community members that want to volunteer for our organization. So,
And tell me your name again.
Wanda Ferguson. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I think this is a good meeting for you to experience. Based on our agenda this evening, you'll come away with a sense of what the Library Advisory Board does, what our jurisdiction is, and then what the Friends do, and then what sorts of decisions are made by the library director and his staff.
Good. Thank you.
And welcome to Wanda specifically, who I did not know would be here either. And yes, I think when I walked in, maybe I assumed that there had been
No,
introductions.
No, we had just, we're just kind of changing She came to our meetings, so I said I would come to
I love
meetings,
that.
yeah.
I always love seeing you. And I'm glad that everyone got to hear you introduce yourself in case they didn't already know you. Is someone holding on to a vote? Question? Okay. New business. Nicole, thank you for agreeing to bring our icebreaker this month.
I don't know if I have a great one. But Riley, okay. So one of the ones I thought was a good question. I thought I had a terrible answer. But which book that you've read do you wish there was a sequel to? And I was thinking about this, and I thought of this one book that I read. It's a very silly book called Sword Heart, and I was like, oh, I would love to read a sequel to that book. And then when I was looking it up for this answer, there was a sequel coming out next year, and it was like written like 10 years ago, 15 years ago or something. So the terrible answer, I'm not sure if anyone's ever read the book, but Sword Heart is a good one. But yeah, so that's my question. What book have you read that you wish there was a sequel to?
I'm not sure if there's a sequel to it, but, and I don't have a connection,
There
I
is.
can't look up another, The Night Circus, which I just love, and I cannot remember her name.
I read Morgan's story.
Aaron,
Aaron.
yeah. Which is sort of a, kind of a sci-fi fantasy thing, and I normally don't read books like that, but this is just, it just sucks you in. And I did try to read many wonderful books, and it just wasn't the same, so I want more of it. It just seems like many books, you know, you shut up and go, oh, I wish we could keep reading this book. That's good. And that Barbara Holthouse, by the way.
There was a Denver Chicana debut author. I think that I have it here. It's called Woman of Light by Kelly Fajardo and Steen. I'm not sure. And she's a kind of a newer author, I think. But it takes place in Denver, probably in like the 1920s or 30s maybe. And the ending felt very rushed. It felt like she was under some kind of sudden publisher time constraint, and it really, as a result, made this sequel. It was great until the ending. It just felt very rushed.
Well, I have a guest.
Come on in.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Over here, I think.
Wherever you can find us.
We have
Yeah.
enough seating?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I don't want to be at the head of the table.
Yeah.
You could take
You can lead the way. If you want to take the seat, though, if you.
Oh, I see.
Wants to sit down, sit down.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course.
More visitors.
I'm Jamie Quirk. I'm the chair of the Library Advisory Board. You're very welcome.
Nice
be
to meet
here.
you. Thank you.
And we are just.
Oh,
we're
nothing.
you're
No, I was listening.
We're just having our icebreaker, our monthly icebreaker. Before this, we had a spot on the agenda where we invite any members of the public to be heard. And before we progress, I just wanted to invite you to introduce yourself
Okay,
and
great.
share what brings you to this meeting.
Well, my name is Sarah Smith. I have lived in Longmont for about 4 years now, and mother of 5. We love the library. A couple years back, I got to take a library course, like about young adults and the freedom to read. And I think with what's going on right now in our country, there's a lot of discussion about how important libraries are. And so when I was logged into the library earlier for an email, I saw that the board meeting was today and happens every month, and I was like, oh, I should go. So I just want to come with my support for the library and all that it represents. So
Thank you. Welcome to be here, and I'm happy to answer questions after our meeting if you have any.
okay, that's great. Thank you.
Need a sequel? I
Trying
know.
to think of something.
That's a stumper question,
Oh,
Dan.
sorry.
Yeah. I don't know
I
if
can give you my other
anything.
question, it's much easier.
Come on, Nicole.
Yeah. It's spring now, what are you excited for? What are you looking forward to? You do that one instead.
Oh, well, I'm off to New Zealand in a couple of weeks.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
For my 75th birthday, and I'm just so excited to go. It's become a huge, when it was proposed 9 months ago by my daughter-in-law's mother, who's only 63, she said, oh, we'll just do this Gate 1 travel. Well, it turns out to be this huge hiking adventure, which is going to be like up and down, up and down, up. I mean, it was like, so they send this whole thing, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? But anyway, here I go. So there we go. So it's off I go. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
Who's gonna beat that?
I know.
Right.
I'm going to Scotland at the end of May.
Wow. Which part?
Edinburgh, and then north, and then to the Shetland Islands.
Oh,
And it's a harp tour.
Yeah.
This woman does harps, and so most of the people that come play harps, and they get lessons and concerts.
goodness.
I don't play the harp, but my friend does.
Is it with a group from here?
No, it's just individual people signed up. You know, the woman lives in the Shetland Islands,
Oh, wow.
but she had this on the internet. My friend who plays the harp saw it.
That's amazing,
There's
though.
only going to be like 11 people in the group, small group. Yeah,
That sounds wonderful.
yeah. So
How many days?
it's like 12 days. And we're going a couple days early to spend some time in Glasgow. Yeah.
Wow.
I some lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, so much like have to be going to outer space.
I'm passing on both topics at this point.
We're going to New Jersey in
Oh.
early June. So technically still spring. It's before the
Where,
solstice.
where in New Jersey?
Well, we're, what do you know?
I moved here from there, so that's.
Get out! All right, so we're gonna be staying in Seaside Heights,
Oh,
but my
okay.
in-laws are in Middletown, and my parents are in Glen.
Okay, so you're going to the shore, you're not just going to New Jersey.
That's our home base, yes. We're gonna be visiting family, but don't wanna just stay in a hotel. We really miss the ocean, so looking forward to it.
Is it warm enough in June to get in there?
Probably not, but that's not gonna stop my 12 and 14-year-old.
Well, especially coming from here. So that's
It's good, you should have a great time.
I am looking forward to it. I haven't seen my dad in like 2 years, so
People in New Jersey are much friendlier than their reputation precedes.
they're much more direct.
That's for sure.
Sometimes that's good. Well, I planted a garden in a box last year, and so one of the things I'm excited about is everything made it, and now some of it's starting to bloom. And the whole neighborhood was like, oh, is that a garden in a box? So I thought if it didn't come back, I was going to be like mortified. So.
How did you get the garden in the box? Did you order it from, did you hear about it and it's ordered it?
From Resource Central,
Okay.
and then they have a pickup day, and you go and get all your little plants, and it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm just waiting, I think we have 22 days left of school.
And how many hours?
But I'm not counting. So for me, I have all these empty garden beds in my yard that I just have not had time to plant anything. So I'm gonna see what I really want to just have it be flowers. My husband built these boxes when COVID hit. Because we all thought all civilization was going to collapse and we'd have to live off the land. So I thought, well, I better start gardening, or we're going to starve.
Some people garden, some went and bought toilet paper and bulk.
There you go. Some people are, yeah. And so, I want to plant some flowers. I want to have a butterfly garden.
Susie, when are you going to make your official announcement?
So I have already submitted my paperwork, so I'm working on getting my website up. Yeah, and then this summer I'll be doing all my campaigning for mayor. Yeah, you're
That's
here, yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
I feel like I'm a.
No, because I said it right before you came in,
Okay.
so,
That's exciting.
yeah. Yeah, I've been doing this since 2019, so right before COVID hit. It was when I got elected, and it was like we hit the ground, it was baptism by fire.
Yeah.
So.
Can mayors serve for more than one term, or
They can serve 3 consecutive terms, 2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
For 6 years total?
Yep.
Because there was so much anger when the library expansion did not pass.
I
think there's
know.
like a huge constituency of people
Yes.
that are hungry for
Yes.
you to do this.
To
so
do
I
this.
think,
Yes.
yeah, it's exciting. We were distressed as the Friends that because of our, we're not allowed to participate in politics because we're a
Yeah.
501c3.
Yes, yeah.
So we're, but there's other, anyway.
But yeah,
There's
you think
private
about
citizens
as
we
people,
can.
yeah, so as people who come to you and say, how can I help?
Yeah.
Here, take these
Yeah.
flyers out and
And
start
you
walking
can
to the library, yeah.
Issues.
As
You
for
can
issues,
advocate
yes.
for
For
issues, and
yes.
if they just so happen
Happen
to
to.
be
Yes.
embraced by specific candidates. So
But anyway, that is, Susie, I'm excited for you. That was great.
Thank you.
Could you answer just I'm familiar with this, so maybe just a quick question. Was the ballot question involving not expanding this facility, but having a satellite facility? Is that, and wasn't, I thought one of the candidates proposed that there would be maybe consideration for either purchasing or repurposing what used to be a grocery store out on Pace
Oh.
Street.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
the north, that would be the northeast corner?
So for the election that people are referring to,
Mhm.
only for a new construction branch.
Oh,
Mhm.
There's been some dialogue, some of it somewhat recently, years ago when this library I think was being built or renovated out, because I wasn't here either.
Mhm.
That Safeway was used as a satellite facility where you're talking about.
Mhm.
And ever since then, a lot of community members in that area of town have thought it'd be a great place to still have a library,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So that's what you're hearing, I
Okay,
believe.
that's
Yeah.
And we do have some efforts to move north, whether it's a whole facility or not.
Yeah.
We're kind of looking at some smaller scale things to create some library services and some visibility on that side of town. So,
Mhm.
And that Safeway's been empty for years.
correct. Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's,
and
that's
the
what you're
challenge
doing.
with that is because that's a private property.
Yeah.
So it's not city
Yeah.
property, so it's
The
not,
corporation owns it,
It's-
and they
yes,
don't want a
so
grocery store in there. so-
it's not that we could write up a ballot measure and then have,
And then
it's
just
going to be
and
at
then
this,
say we're
at-
taking over.
we're just taking over
Yeah.
if it passes.
I mean, maybe.
So move it Safeway.
Is it still
These
owned by
days, I
Safeway?
think,
I don't know who owns, I don't know
I
if
think it's owned by the company that owns
they,
Safeway.
Safeway,
That would be,
okay.
Cerberus.
They didn't
Okay.
sell it or?
No, they
Nope.
didn't sell it. No.
Okay.
And I guess, and people have said, well, why don't we put a Trader Joe's or just something else? Well, they don't want to put a grocery store in there.
Mhm.
Competition.
Yeah, so the ballot initiative that was up there almost 2 years ago or 2 years ago, and that would have been built on already owned city property, so that wasn't an issue as far as that goes. So.
Mhm.
Interesting. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who felt moved to answer the icebreaker question?
Not after New Zealand, Scotland.
No, I
Jersey.
know, I couldn't compare to that.
I can a short answer for both questions. Unfortunately, for the first question, it will never happen. There will never be a sequel to a tremendous book that I just recently read. It's called American Spirits, and it was published posthumously after Russell Banks passed away. So there won't be a sequel, obviously, but it's really just so pertinent to this time. He just captured what we're all experiencing, culturally, socially, politically. He did it so beautifully, and it just has me wishing that he could still be here and still be writing, because he does such a great job of, holding the mirror up and saying, okay, this is what you look like. He's really a great writer. And the other question was, I'm not going anywhere, and it won't include me, but I'm very anxious because I bought 3 tickets for my wife, our now adult daughter, who's living in New Jersey in her first after college job, and my sister-in-law. We're all going to be there together in a couple of weeks. And I bought them tickets to see George Clooney on Broadway. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
It's not for me, it's for them. I won't be there.
You will go?
No, I'm going to be here.
Okay.
They're traveling there, so that's why I'm excited for that. The big George Clooney fans, what can I say?
Isn't it good night, good luck? Is that
It's Good Night and Good Luck.
Yeah,
It's,
that's right.
It's
the film that he did?
right. It's actually a stage adaptation of the film that he
Correct.
did before. Yeah. But again, something that is really relevant right at this moment.
I think we can move on. Our first item of new business is our annual report from the library director. And so if you were not here last year, which maybe most of you were not, this is something that John has done every year around this time of year.
This is the second year.
That's how far back my
Every year for 2
experience
years.
goes. I'm trying to
I mean, I didn't have to share that.
reinforce
but I just need full
your
transparency.
pattern that you are establishing here, the
Right,
healthy
right.
pattern of sharing with us what the year has looked like for the Longmont Library.
All right. You seeing that, Katie?
Yeah, I have it. I have it too,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fine too. That's
Oh
good.
no, I do have it from you and I have it from.
Good. Okay. So, so every year since last year, we've started to put together an annual report, and we just finished it up with a tremendous amount of work from Tracy and our communications staff member to make it look as nice as it did. And so I'm not going to. I'll go through it and pull out some highlights for you, and certainly can field questions. Did we include this in the packet?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had a chance to look at it. So if you did and you have questions, I can field those. But eventually we'll put this on the website too and share that out. But it's pretty new. So.
John, would you be able to just X out of the tools, like that toolbar, maybe yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For me, it's fine. So circulation, of course, library lingo refers to what we checked out. This includes renewals. We include that in one number because we get so many renewals. I mean, if you don't know, we do auto renewals. So if you check something out that no one else wants and you haven't finished it yet, it'll just keep renewing it up to 2 times. With that, almost 1 million checkouts this year, which is good. Over 5,000 new library card holders, or new members of the library. Visits, this is physical visits, people that come in our doors into this building. 340,000 up from last year. This continues to grow every year, even though I haven't done an annual report. I have the numbers, and every year it grows more. We are the #1 visited facility in the city.
How do you track that?
We have laser beam door counters, and what happens is as people come in and out, it tracks it both, but to track who's coming in, it divides it in half. And then auto reports it's connected to our network, so you can get some data from that. Reference transactions, this just refers to people asking us questions beyond where is the restroom, right? So it's actual questions that we want to help people with. Beyond that, like directional questions. Digital circulation, which it's probably what it sounds like. So ebook checkouts, e-audio, database usage, any platform we have, anything like that that you can check out somehow is also tracked. So over 100,000 ebooks checked out, e-audio pretty close, e-magazines. We are part of the Front Range Downloadable Library. It's basically a community borrowing system between us, Loveland, Longmont, Louisville, Lafayette, Broomfield, and Westminster. I always forget Westminster's in this group, but they are. So between all of us, 1.4 million checkouts of e-content. The reason I report that here, and we alone account for 20% of that, right? But it's significant in the importance of that type of consortial borrowing, where if we weren't in there, the access to the content that we have, and if you're looking for popular materials that have an e-content that has high hold lists, it would be double that without being a member of this. So if that makes people feel like I'm on a hold now that I'm like 60 deep, but it's just what it is.
John, is that something that the friends help you for, the digital circulation? Or is that
No,
something that
no, this is part of our collection. Okay. It's over our overall collection.
Okay.
Yep. Now, speaking of friends, so Discovery Passes. This is a system we have that the Friends does support, where you can, as a library card holder, get free museum passes to anywhere that we have an agreement with. It ranges from the Butterfly Pavilion, Longmont Museum, I think Kirkland Museum of Art, Denver. There's a number.
Natural History Museum.
Yeah. So that's what that is. So and then Library of Things, also fully Friend supported. That's a very popular collection of things, as stated. But stuff that you wouldn't normally think to check out. So we have scientific telescopes, sewing machines, yard games, practical things like vehicle diagnostic tools,
We just got a metal detector.
and a metal detector.
Radars.
And the radon. Yep.
Yeah. We need to check for nails because they replaced the roof. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You can even check out equipment to do a neighborhood litter cleanup, if you will, and so on. So there's a lot of things in there. And what the Friends
As always, I always learn new things about what's in the library of things.
Yeah.
At least I know what's in there, and then you always land with something that I didn't know
something
about.
new. Yep. And if you go to our website, and kind of navigate towards Library of Things, you can see the full inventory. And the system, which the Friends also help support to book all those objects, as we would call them. The Seed Library, huge program, which most people know about every spring, that's still going on right now. That's a combination of the Friends and other donations and some of the library's funds to make that happen. Huge program. The State Park backpacks, if you haven't done that, that's a state library funded program. Every public library, depending on the size of your library or population, you get backpacks that have some equipment in there to explore state parks. Of course, the key item in there is the pass itself. So the next time you renew your vehicle registration and they try to prompt you into buying a state park pass, you're more than welcome to, but also you get it from your library for free. So nothing against the old DMV. Computer lab, this is computer sessions, right? So approaching 30,000 logins of computer use, that's a lot in a year. Study rooms, high, meeting rooms. This room and the large meeting room, that's what that is leading towards. And then programs, so we over 3,000 total programs offered, over 37,000 people participate. This is children through adult programs. Summer reading, one of our biggest programs, which is just about to start here in a little bit. And so over 2,600 participating in children's summer reading. This year we'll be doing adult.
We get a prize?
You can. Yeah. there are prizes for adults. I hear they're pretty good. You'll have to check it out. And then just some accomplishments from the year. So we completed, and this really started in 23, but most of us spilled into 24. So the children's department, all the new shelving and the layout, that was done mostly last year. That's through a public improvement fund, not the library's budget, that we had funds for to do. Much needed shelving, either just old, some of it nearly falling down, so safety issue and other things, right? And so that got completed. We started a new partnership with Longmont Public Media here next door to expand our computer and technology education offerings. With so much that Longmont Public Media has. So we've done some things there that expanded into like digital photography and other things that we just don't naturally have here. So that's been good. A lot more to come there, including a potential esports tournament that might be coming up in the fall that they are partnering with us on. Friends of the Library. This is last year, in 2024, there's a big conference for professional development in public library land, Public Library Association. They do that conference every other year. Last year was the year. We have an extremely small professional development budget that we would barely allow one person to go. So the Friends generously gave us funds to send 5 staff members there, and brought back a lot of good stuff that's informing some of the things we're doing now, like with our collections, some classes that one of our staff members took to better catalog our materials, to expand sort of the diversity and inclusion aspects of how our materials are presented in the catalog. So sort of behind the scenes work, but that's a direct result of attending that conference. A big project we took on, which we've talked about here before, I will show that I think, later in the meeting, but we completed our new 5-year strategic plan for this library. We haven't had a strategic plan. Well, no one I talked to remembers, so it's been that long. So that was a good big project that we did here. The Friends of the Library, through the Colorado Association of Libraries, was awarded the Volunteer of the Year. That's a huge award. Wanda was there along with our former
We
chair.
had no idea how big it was. We were at this gigantic conference in Breckenridge. It was a big deal.
Yeah, it's all association. Anyone. So when you're nominated, there's a lot of competition basically these awards. Some of them are things like this. Some of them are for individual library staff members. It's just the gamut. But there's only one volunteer award, and the Friends of the Library won it last year. One of our staff members won an award. CLEL is Children's Literacy and Early Learning. Is there someone? There's so many acronyms in this industry. I think I remember. But she won the Hero Award for Early Literacy. Lillian, who was our outreach coordinator, bilingual outreach coordinator, she's involved in CLEL. She helps select folks for the year that win awards through CLEL. It's a big early literacy program. It's not a grant. Organization, I guess is the word I was looking for. But anyway, that tremendous honor for her. That's member nominated, so members of CLEL nominated her for that. We implemented a new brochure last year, which we've now done, I think, 4 or 5 times since. I have the new one here, which I'll hand out. How did you get your hands on it?
It was right over there. So they have it in Spanish and English, it's right there.
That's
Sorry,
very
I'll put
true,
it back
yeah.
if you.
The only reason I snarkily asked that is I thought we're putting these out till next week.
They're out there now.
That's an internal staff issue.
Okay.
It's fine that they're out because really the programs start in a week or two. Oh yeah, we did a couple big events last year. We brought in Cy Montgomery, if you don't know, very well-known author. That was a huge program. The ABCs of book banning, film, and then a panel follow-up with a Q&A. Both also Friends funded, of course. Those are great events that we did at the museum. The Stewart Auditorium is good for events like that. In the hallway here, the Art in Public Places installation of the altar of the two young men that were shot down by police back in the 80s. This memorial there now to live here. It was just sitting in storage. So I think the library is an outstanding place to have this as a discussion point for people to learn about things like that. We have water bottle filling stations. Maybe it's not a huge deal, but I was certainly asked a lot, why can't I fill my water bottle in your library? So now we have them. And we did that by partnering with the city's sustainability department, who actually funded them.
Wow.
And I say partnership. So they funded them, and then there's posters there that kind of explain that and how much water you save by filling your bottle and not getting a plastic bottle.
I didn't know about that one. That one's great.
I'm unreasonably excited about that.
Yeah, there's one downstairs and upstairs. So yep. And then some marketing numbers here, just how many, almost 100 emails that we send over across a number of subjects. How many people open them? Over 50% is pretty good that people actually open those emails and don't do what a lot of people do with marketing newsletters, at least that you don't ask for. The thing about these is people sign up for them. We don't ever send an email to someone that didn't ask for one. So, and a lot of activity, really, even just clicking within an email and opening things. And then, yeah, just some more marketing numbers here. Try not to go through, good to not go through detail. And that's about it, actually. So, just to show you that, eventually this will go up on the website. If you had a chance to read it or anything I showed here, if you have other questions or comments, I'm happy to field those.
There was 340,000 people came into the library
Yes.
during the year. Do you have any idea of like how many per day? I mean, 340,000 divided
Well, yeah,
by
right.
365, so it's
Yeah.
it's almost, it sounds like almost 1,000 a day.
Right.
Okay.
So you could get the average of that. What I'm trying to think of is
But you're not open.
if it could be broken down into a day, like I think we can. I don't know if this is what you're asking, but like for instance, like our Friday is the most popular day in the year as opposed to like Tuesdays.
Yeah, which would
Yeah.
be interesting. Not-
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know right now.
And then who does the report go to? How does that get distributed?
It does not get distributed, really. And being that this is the second, so last year when we did it, we hadn't put one together like this in this way. And I'll back up for a second. A lot of these numbers are numbers we gather that we report, and Tracy does the bulk of this to the state library. A lot of these numbers, not the accomplishments aspects, but all the numbers that you're seeing. And so we thought last year, between that and some marketing numbers, we could really compile this into a presentable thing. Last year, we were able to, the board actually presented this to City Council at one of their meetings.
Yeah.
Generally, that's not something that happens. I don't know how we actually were fortunate to do that.
Because I asked them to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's why. It's
Summoned you all over.
yeah. There's
Well, and I think it's important that the public know,
Yeah.
that our city council know
Yeah.
that this is the impact, and it is a heavily
correct.
visited facility.
But that was and thank you and thanks to Susie, we were able to do that. Generally, the city manager's office kind of like shies away a little bit from every department starting to report on annual numbers in meetings. So we were lucky to get to do that in person. But even outside of that, I will send this to council. It'll be on our website. Of course, it's shared with this board. I will share it at the Friends annual meeting next week, along with the strategic plan, or this week, sorry, this Saturday. So kind of any avenue.
Well, it's a fantastic tool, and we were talking last meeting, about getting the information out there.
Right.
And you've already done a beautiful job on this, so
Thank you.
thank you. And I wish that we'd had these to hand out when the referendum was on. This would have been.
Well, I do think having that narrative as well, when you shared, it was so easy to be able to pass using our council contingency funds to
Yes.
fund those,
The lockers.
the lockers.
Yeah.
So it just builds that expands the education and has that buy-in.
I want a pile. I wish we had a physical copy, just so people are always asking me about the library. What's going on in the library? And this is just such a nice.
Yeah, and what I'll do. I mean, this just got wrapped up late last week. But it will go on our website. It'll come up in a way where you can kind of look through it, but also in a downloadable version.
Cool.
And I'll show you that with the strategic plan too. So that way you have that nice presentable that you're welcome to then print out for yourself or others, or at least show them. And then that way you get this version and not like a broken down website version.
Can I have to walk around with my iPad?
Do you find it hard to click on the website and go,
Yeah,
eyes glazed over?
exactly.
John, did you, staff consider doing a print run of these, like maybe in a similar format to the program, or combining it with the, whatever seasonal program it aligned with, so that patrons would have something?
We haven't talked about it, but I that's a good point. Yeah.
I wonder,
Yeah.
I think that would be.
You could also.
Yeah.
You could also maybe just add it as a link to the newsletters that go out, to each of the newsletters, even if it's not necessarily on category. Like I get the kids-specific programming newsletter, but it's still as a print. I would like to have a link I could click on for it from the newsletter. And it's free, right? It's a good way to start if you don't know if you have the budget to do a big print.
All good then.
And then you can get more clicks to report next time.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the question I guess I'm curious about. Like I look at these numbers and I'm like, these are just naked numbers to me. I have no idea what, like they look impressive because they're long numbers.
Right.
Do you know in terms of like is any of this data like impressive in terms of like, oh, for a city of this size, this number of people checking out Discovery bags is amazing? Or is there anything that is underutilized that you found from these numbers where you're like, I wish more people knew about the park passes or whatever it is? Is there?
Yeah, that's a good question. In looking at these, there's really good tools to get comparative data like that. Certainly something like the checkout number here. We're one of the highest searching libraries in general, regardless of size in the state. But I'd have to look at that, and it might be worth even, whether it's here or in the future, kind of pointing that out. But yeah, I'm not concerned about any numbers necessarily. But the one thing I'll say is when you get into, even with that high materials checkout, I'm more concerned with e-content. And I'm concerned in the sense that we can't afford to buy anymore. And so, it's great to be a part of that consortial environment, but that means anybody, right? Anybody in that consortium can check out materials even if we purchased it. And the same is true in reverse, but if we could have more materials that are for Longmont residents, I think that number should probably be higher, but it's so limited, and I think people who are avid audio and ebook users probably get discouraged when they see something they want that has 150 people on the hold list with 2 copies entirely. You know, that's discouraging.
But like that's kind of information I'm curious about,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about like
Oh, yeah.
like ballot measures and things like that. What kind of information can we pull from this?
And I have that, and I'll actually touch on that a little bit
Okay.
when I talk about budget, but in the budgeting process, but I've done a lot of comparative data for that to kind of show where we land in the state. Some numbers that are represented in this annual report that are in the state report, in particular, are expenditures, so how much we spend on collections, for example. We're in one of the lowest percentiles for a population of this size for how much we spend on collections. That's not a number. That's not where you want to be, right? And you know, we're not meeting the needs of a city this size. We're spending on collections as if the population of Longmont is still 50,000 people.
Do you have any context to the statistic around new borrowers? What that number might have looked like last year, or, you know, I'm trying to crunch in my fatigued brain, like that looks like it's roughly 5% of the total population in the city? Ish? Like, I'm surprised at how large that number is. Is that people who moved into Longmont? Is it people who became old enough to get a card? Like,
Well, it wouldn't be age because any age can get a card. Any age can get a card. But I don't know the actual answer, like if that's gone up or down. You know, I think that what informs it certainly is new residents to Longmont and then outreach efforts that when we're out at outreach, it's not just sharing about the library, we sign people up for library cards. And I would say every event we do that, we get new members.
that's awesome.
And that's an activity that we didn't have 3 years ago. We weren't out, well, we were at schools,
Right.
but what Lillian does now with outreach, and some of it you don't really see as far as the public doesn't see, right? Like she goes to parent PI meetings, parents involved in education, and does big programming there. And that wouldn't be advertised here because it's not a public meeting. But that engages a lot of people and may garner new library card memberships there. And that's something that we weren't doing 3 years ago.
That's awesome.
Please.
I know that answer somewhat. I do know that actually we average about 5,000, or we're a little over that annually
Right.
for new borrowers. So that's a pretty average number for our library. And I don't know specifically why or where that comes from. But.
And we don't track, like, I don't even know how you would track, like, deactivated cards or, you know, library users who are moving out of the area. You know,
Can never really deactivate
Yeah, if they're still in the system, they would still just be a current borrower, so that wouldn't be listed as a new borrower.
I mean, there's processes as far as if someone hasn't used their card, the system will put them as inactive. Then at some point, years later, they would get purged from the system. And that's just a database cleanup activity, really. But we don't really take that and match it with new and kind of come up with some number. Yeah.
I'm trying to, like, imagine whether our current active card users is growing, you know, like not, like in a net way. But,
I wouldn't say exponentially, but yes, I would say it does grow every year by a little bit. So it's not going down, but
that's a good number.
And part of that is just kids. There's new kids every year.
Sure.
So there's that too. I think you're saying the age thing. So there's new kids born every year that are getting cards at some point in their lives.
Right,
So.
but they're getting cards.
Right, yeah.
And we have a population who's growing. And probably not every municipality is doing that.
Pulled up last year's annual report out of curiosity, and yeah, Tracy said that it hovers around 5,000 every year. Last year specifically, it was 5,161, so it's up by a good 200. the new borrowers. So this is a pretty high growing thing.
Does anyone know, do all of the schools in the St. Croix Valley School District have a library?
They don't.
They don't.
They don't.
So
Some of
which
them-
ones do not?
I went to an elementary school and I visited their library that was in the process of being turned into
STEM?
a STEM.
Okay, yeah.
And the librarian was a little frustrated and told me that the principals of the schools had the jurisdiction to
Okay,
convert
okay.
traditional libraries. So
Mhm.
maybe I don't want to mischaracterize
Yeah.
traditional libraries into STEM and robotics centers.
So what's supposed to be happening is there is a section where children have access to books. So in our building, we are a STEM school. We have a maker space, so we have a section that's carved out for a maker space, STEM activities, we have a separate robotics room. But that component, as well as having access to the library. So for us, when our kids go to library, it's a mix of the mediatek, the librarian would read a book, discuss a theme, but then they do a corresponding STEM activity that is in relation to the literature that they've. So in an ideal world, that's how we build that connectivity.
Mhm.
So I talked to you about what school that is,
Yeah.
because I'll go check it out.
I was shocked though, Susie,
Because
like
that's
how
not
few
the intent,
physical
And that,
books there were
Yeah.
in this space.
and so, and I think about, and I'm just coming now from my union, because I used to be the vice president of our teachers union. So I would go into all the buildings and the intent was to have that dual space. So you're combining the literature and the technology or the design thinking.
Mhm.
So
They don't look consistent.
it's probably not.
Well, it's just that affects what the public library
Yes.
needs to be providing
Yes,
for,
because
school
there's
children.
gaps.
Yeah.
Because there will be gaps.
and particularly not science-oriented stuff, because they're getting that in the school. Literature and reading and,
Mhm.
imagination and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And so that puts a bigger burden on the public library.
Yes.
Just curious, has there been any discussion with, let's say, a planning commission for the city or a housing commission? Because, again, being relatively new here, it seems like there's a lot of building that's underway right now or has recently been opened. I think about coming in from Diagonal Highway, as you just enter the center of the city, there's all those, there must be several hundred units there. There's several others that are being built right next to the recycling center. They must have an impact assessment study that they've done. That would tell you, that would give you some indication or projection as to how many new residents are we gonna have. Because those places are all gonna be filled pretty soon. How many, the city should have done an impact assessment to say, all right, we're gonna have 3,000 new residents, and we're estimating that that's gonna bring us 2,500 children, school-age children. Maybe we would have to do that in order to determine whether or not you needed another elementary school.
Susie would answer.
Those
Which
are
the
needs
city
based.
has.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have.
The district has.
We have that, and we have, our needs-based, but also maximum build-out. Because we have designated open space around the perimeter of Longmont, that is official open nature space. It will not be built into. The projections really of maximum build-out is 125,000. I believe we're at 106. So, we're getting close to that point. So it's kind of, being creative with what we have. Yeah, and are you talking about with building, like having opportunities for things like library services within?
Library services.
embedded in?
But John also talked a little bit earlier about satellite and how, you know, if you're contemplating, you would need another facility adjunct to this facility.
Mhm.
You could make projections if you had that data as to how many residents are arriving, you know, here every year. You could then make reasonable projections as to our expectation is we're going to have 10,000 new residents in 2025. So of that, can you make a reasonable projection as to how many would be children, how many would be adults, et cetera?
It is true that the school district is expanding. The number of students in the district is growing at a time where our neighbor districts are losing enrollment. Our enrollment is up to the extent that, you know, there was a recent the bond,
yeah.
yeah, to build exactly more schools to accommodate more children.
I don't think the only factor in looking at potential growth of the Longmont Library is growth of the city, though. Colorado is a state where you can become a member of any library. I have coworkers that go into our library right after work before they go home. And so I imagine we have people who go right after work or on their lunch break and then might get out of town. There's also, quite frankly, a little bit of tourism with libraries because, I mean, if you're a kid and you're looking for stuff to do on the weekend, with your kid, you might go to an out-of-town library if there's an event you think that is particularly worthwhile for them. And I know, I mean, we personally have like 4 different library cards among the state, and so I think it's really hard to kind of pin down exactly where the growth is and why. And so I think it's just a good sign of kind of robust across the gamut that people are coming here who just work in Longmont. People are coming here who bring their kids from out of town, and also residents moving in. I don't know if there's a good way of kind of truly eking out what all the growth is.
But we do already know that we're much smaller. We have a much smaller library though for just the amount of people that are here.
Yep.
Because
That
we
was
have
the
a
feasibility.
Feasibility
Yeah,
study,
exactly.
yep.
Yeah.
That pointed that out.
So that's a really good point, that we have more people coming in, but we still have more people here that are really kind of underserved. Because we don't have enough reduction in budget and size and satellites and places that people can easily get to their life. So that's one of our big concerns.
Thank you for sharing this. I, as usual, well, for 2 years anyway, I really appreciate
All these years that you've been doing
I
this.
I love the visual way that the information is presented. It's very clean and digestible, and you know, numbers in particular.
Yeah.
I do hope there is a lot of engagement from the community with this
Yeah.
report because
Me too. And one aspect of this year's that I do like is having what we didn't do last year was pretty much a numbers report. This year we included these more of the narrative accomplishments and things that aren't maybe as obvious to people that we spent a lot of time doing that have an impact.
and the
There's
photos
so
are
many
nice
stories.
touch.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I like the way you hit on even the infrastructure, the water bottles. I mean, that was just, I just think this is a nice tool.
And a great
Yeah, the accomplishments is a fabulous new addition to this over last year's.
As Barbara mentioned, like as a conversation starter, you know, to be able to connect with people in the community. Say, hey, did you see that? Oh my goodness, you know? Very cool. All right, and so now we move into what is this budget process all about?
Yeah, I mean, there won't be much now. I don't have anything to show here, but just to let you know where, which I do every year that I've been here is, you know, we are on a calendar year budget, January, December as a city, and so right now, actually a couple weeks ago or so, we've already started to have meetings and talking about the 2026 budget. In March, we were talking about that. You know, so there's just a lot of steps that have to be done before it gets, you know, through our city process and then on to city council, usually I think around August, September, where they start talking about it. So there's a lot to do. So just to give you, you know, and particularly since we have some visitors here, so I've gone. This will be my third budget cycle. The first year, pretty much anything that I thought I needed for the budget went into the election, and there was that's too much to get into now, but that's not really how it normally would work. You know, yes, there was an election, but that was really just to build a branch, not for my operational budget. That's a different thing, right? When it comes to the budget, there's generally three types of requests that I will make every year. They're kind of broken down in what they call level 1, level 2, or a one-time request. A level 1 would be like price increases to things I have no control over, right? But I need a % increase to cover that. You know, think about things like utilities or whatever. For our purposes, it's things like, well, it can be anything, but maintenance agreements we have, like for our automated sorter or equipment like that, or our library software system, those always have a % increase. So I always estimate what that's going to be. Those are boring yet needed requests that I have to, if I don't make it, then I don't get it. The level 1s generally are approved no matter the budget situation of the city. Level 2 are all the things that we think we need as a department. That's where all the heavy lifting kind of comes in, where we're asking for additional personnel, increases to our collections budget, programming budget, pretty much anything you can think of goes in there. And so I'm starting to put that together now, which will include everything I just said, to try and get us closer to supporting a city of this size. But also being strategic about that and realistic. So we need more staff, but I really don't have anywhere to put them. So when I'm asking for personnel, it's pretty strategic in there. Some of it is I'll be asking with existing personnel that are maybe 3/4 time people that I'll be requesting to go to full time. Like that has an impact, and I don't need more space. So that's kind of a little bit of the approach with that. And then, well, the one time are just what it sounds like, right? So, for example, I'm trying to think. I should have written some stuff down. I've had some requests come to me, including some more shelving. A couple of our self-check machines, I think in the children's area, are old and outdated and have out-of-order signs on more than they probably should. So those things just have to get replaced. There can be other means to do that, but we'll request it through a one-time request to get that funded. Anyway, I don't have to know it all now. This is sort of like the teaser. Every month, probably starting with this meeting going forward, there'll be a budget topic for this where I'll get more and more detail shared with the board and show you what we're requesting and why, and field questions, and certainly ideas for things that you're not seeing. So that's part of this whole process, so that the board is up to speed on what we're doing.
And remind me, last year, all of level 1 and that was it was approved, was that right?
Correct. All of level 1, which was
100%
what I
level
mentioned.
1.
Yeah, but that was
The maintenance.
like maintenance agreement.
And nothing from any of the other requests.
Correct.
Well,
And-
nothing,
and-
you mean no increases.
Yeah.
Nothing from level 2 and no one time.
No, but you're talking,
Correct.
no increases, so you still get the same amount of collection funds as.
Nothing
last
got
year.
cut.
Nothing got cut, but you
So,
did get it.
but there was no increase for that example.
Yeah,
There was no increase last year or the year before. And yes, so level two. And last year, I will say, even though I certainly advocate for ourselves and as the board advocates for the library, I think as a city in general, little to no departments got any level two requests last year. It wasn't unique to the library. It was the situation the city was in and the financial picture at the time. So I wasn't surprised at that last year, you know. And I say there was no cuts. You know, the reality to that is our collection budget may stay the same, but
Prices
the
go.
prices go up.
Yeah.
And then we add on processing fees, shipping costs go up.
Yeah.
So it's not cut in that sense, but it's cut. We're buying less, so we're serving people less because we can't buy as much as we used to with the same amount that we've had in that collection budget for the last 5 years, right?
If you're not going up, you're actually going down.
Yep. So there'll be more on budget. I just wanted to let you know that's where we're kind of just starting that now. Yeah. Sorry, was there?
No, I'm just looking at Susan.
I don't know if I'm remembering.
I know
Get it done.
I read the
Blaring
letter.
at I might have dreamt this. Was there a unique statistic in the number of consecutive years that the library did not receive an increase to their budget compared? Like I hear you saying like nobody got level two requests last year, but I seem to feel like the library had gone longer without a budget increase than maybe some other departments.
So the thing with the library, and understand, like, you know, I'm 2.5 years in. This is my third cycle. My first year here, as I started talking with my boss and city manager staff, I was advised to pretty much request the world because my people before me were not really making requests. And so there was this real disconnect in a way of the library's like, well, we don't get anything, yet the other side of the fence is saying, yeah, but you're not asking for anything, like how are we supposed to know? So I don't know what was asked for before or not. It sounds like not much. I can tell you at least a couple things were. So our outreach coordinator was a position requested before I got here, which was funded. We have a number of part-time staff that were created before me that were funded. So there were some things. When I get into like collections and stuff, as far as I can tell, there were no requests made to increase collection budgets or things like that. There was no request to add a programming budget, which almost any public library has. Thank goodness for the Friends, right? But that support that, or we would have no programming. And from what I can tell, no one before me was asking for dollars to support just general programming, which is really is an essential services collections. Right? You can't be a library without programming and collections.
Well, and that was one of the things when I came on this, when I became the liaison to this board. And then as I'm sharing what I'm hearing at the board to the rest of the council members, they had no idea. So it was like, well, no, the library's doing fine. I was like, well, no, actually, all this,
I remember that.
all these needs, and
Correct.
so
And
it's building that
it did. And
communication.
and eventually those conversations is in part with some other outside factors is what really informed doing that feasibility study.
Right.
And then really showing where we're underspent and where we should be.
And to remind this board and our visitors about how the library gets funded through the city. It is through the general, it's a general fund?
The general fund.
So it's not directly tied to any kind of taxes
No,
No.
I see what you mean.
that the city takes in? In other words, like if taxes increase, that doesn't necessarily equate revenue.
Yeah, so like,
for the
let's
library.
say, I think about the ballot measure from the county that moved, that the open space fund sunsetted, but they opted to put on the ballot an extension,
Right,
but rather it be for open space, that it would actually go towards housing,
okay.
so affordable housing. So money that is collected in taxes for that particular fund needs to stay in that fund. So when, property tax or, our sales tax increase, or we generate new revenue, that goes into the general fund. So then that kind of disperses through all, but I don't think we don't have a specific library.
There's no library fund in the general, within the city's budget.
Yeah, that we've had a
There's
ballot measure that.
The library has its own fund, but that's
Mm-hmm.
outside of the general fund. That's actually where our revenue from the Friends comes.
Okay, oh, I see.
And I think, and I think the thing that I learned last year, which was really interesting to me, is that, for instance, the rec center generates money because people have to have memberships, so they generate money.
The museum.
The museum
the same
generates
way.
money because you have to pay to go to the museum. But the library, it's free.
Mhm.
Nobody pays anything to go to the library.
Mhm.
That's why it's so important.
Yes.
Because it's a free service for this community. But it doesn't have a way to generate money.
Generate funds for
That's
itself.
the
Yes.
problem. Just,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's,
Mhm.
that's why it's so important to support it. Because it's free to everybody.
Is there a line item budget appropriation for those other organizations that would be different? than the library?
They lumped the library in with the rec center and the museum.
Yeah, it's all
And that's the
under
problem.
Recreation.
We're like the ugly stepsister here, you know? It's, I'm sorry.
No,
It's-
I hear you. I hear you. I wanted to just confirm that there wasn't like this simple equation of Longmont took in 10% more revenue this year, and so everything that is funded through that general fund automatically gets a 10%. It doesn't.
I see what
It does
you're saying.
work that
Doesn't
way.
work that
Doesn't
way.
work
Nope,
that way.
it'll
Appropriate that way.
Yeah.
And that's a condition of being in a municipal structure like this, where it's shared resources,
Right.
right? That's where if different governing districts operate differently, they don't have that issue. If the money, if there's an increase, then the library gets increased, right? If it's a special district. In a municipality, it could, and even an example of that is Denver Public Library a couple of years ago or so did pass through the voters a property tax increase that was set up as a specific streamlined fund to the library's budget that no one can touch. So there's ways to do it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Generally, it's going to take voters.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there anything different this year with the funding now that like the parks is in the same department? Because I think they must have a similar, like they don't take in revenue either. So, but I don't know if funding was always kind of like the department didn't matter.
Yeah, and that's still like in the works kind of thing
Oh, okay,
anyway, but I don't really know what impact that's going to have.
Because I imagine they're in a similar situation where they don't, like unlike the library and the rec, they don't take in any funding from.
Yeah, not much. There's
Sort of like field rentals, I guess.
that or at parks like shelter rentals
Just
and
shelter
things.
rentals,
Yeah.
But otherwise.
And events like,
Okay.
but I don't quite know.
So Susie, is it basically the city council that gets budget presentations from all these people? The city council decides
So,
how the money is divvied up?
the city manager and the CFO do a phenomenal job at putting all the numbers together
Yeah,
to
sure.
present to us a balanced budget. And then so if they're, and I mean, very seldom do we go in and like tweak anything because it's their wheelhouse. Like they know how to balance budgets, and so they're presenting to us
Yeah.
balanced budgets. So in accordance with our rules of procedure and our code is we have to
You
vote.
approve it.
We approve it. Yes.
Okay.
So the city, so when John's in there saying, well, we want it all this level 2, and the parks people are saying, we want it level 2, the city manager making the ultimate decision about how to allocate?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how it works.
So you gotta get to Harold before.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, that's correct. It's done at the city level. So we as a department will present that. The assistant city manager that oversees external services, which is recreation and culture, and then also facilities. There's a bunch of departments within external services. That the responsibility of that assistant city manager is to prioritize all these budget requests and rank them. And what I will do is present the rankings that I have within my own, but then they have to take mine and everyone else's and do this. And then that's what goes to the city manager and the CFO to decide how they're going to divvy that up.
So even though the board is advocating to the city council, it's like the city manager's not getting the benefit of all the things the board would like the library to be funded to have.
I mean, I try really hard to articulate that, so when we do have our council, our pre-sessions where we're able to share out. So all of these conversations, I bring forward.
Yeah.
So not necessarily every liaison does.
No, but Susie
Harold's
does,
in the room.
and I can tell you that our current mayor does too. So it's still, as we do this, that's kind of the ears you want to bend because they meet with the city manager regularly to have an opportunity then to have city council members who do communicate with our city manager regularly can kind of advocate for the library on our behalf before it's presented.
So Susie, who in the city should we direct like concerned citizens to talk to? Like people that.
So it is our city council people.
And the other
I mean,
city
you
council
can always,
just tell people, talk to your city council people, tell them how important the library is.
yes.
So
And then, CC Harold on it. And
similar to just what
the
you
city
do with
manager's
the-
office and us.
And they care about hearing from the public.
Oh,
They
yeah.
care about hearing from
Well, and that's, I mean, I'm still working on it, getting back to all these emails, but every single email, I mean, that informs my decision-making process is looking at how, what are the impacts, where's the community direction going, and, So no, I think it is very important to hear, because otherwise then what happens, a few years back was, well, the library has what it needs, we haven't heard anything from them.
Right.
Well, I feel like the museum, they seem to have a very outspoken bunch of advocates on the museum board. Yes, and they're very politically.
And I think that's
involved,
coming more from, rather than our advisory board, more from the Stewart Foundation and the Friends of the Museum.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
It's good. It's good we're asking these questions. Anybody have anything else for right now?
Yeah, what's Harold's phone?
Who's Harold's boss?
Well, he
It's
is
us,
also,
right?
City council.
We are his boss, yeah.
She likes to think that, no.
I'm sorry, Susie.
Okay, well, I heard John say that this budget topic is going to be coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to, I mean, this is good, just to get you thinking about it, so.
It might be John again. We have a brief update on the
Sponsorships, I think I brought this up a meeting or two ago, that we're now, as recreation and culture, rec and museum have always dealt with, because of their obligation for revenue, they get that in part through sponsorships for, think about like Rhythm at Roosevelt, there's big banners of whichever bank is sponsoring it. I said whichever bank, it's been the same thing for years. But, it's things like that. So the library got folded into that this year, and that hasn't been too much, but I just wanted to let you know that this is a factor in what I was actually going to do is share, so I can show it here, and then Katie can see it. Okay, we go here. So on, okay, I'm just on the city website here, and if you get into recreation services and about us, you'll see become a sponsor, and this has always been there. What's new here is the fact of who you can sponsor, so the library is now listed. And so the way this exists is pretty generic, which is intentional. You know, I don't really need someone that's like, I want to sponsor like the next story time in 2 weeks on Tuesday morning, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. But bigger events, so like summer reading, for example. When we get bigger author events, that would be nice, if possible, to have sponsorships in conjunction with the friends. There's really not a conflict there because you can have one do one sell books. You know, it all helps. But there hasn't been too much, but we will have one at the summer reading kickoff pool party, which I'll mention here in a little bit. But there is an organization that is going to be there and are sponsoring summer reading. I think it's like $500 or so. And so that'll be kind of our first taste with it. But what I want to share a little bit is it's always a little different when libraries get into this business, right? Because we are a public space that's open to everybody, and you know, especially when it comes to sponsorships that come with one of the benefits of having a physical presence at something. The pool party is fine because it's not here; it's somewhere else. In the library, we get into, of course, like privacy issues and limited public forum, First Amendment stuff. So, if someone wants to sponsor an event and they ask to be in the library, like to table and kind of share, we can't do that. Or if we do, then everyone has to, whether they sponsor or not. So, so we're still learning a little bit about this. I think as we go, kind of navigating how it's going to work for us to kind of be in this game. I mean, I certainly don't mind the idea of sponsorships, but we have to be cautious a little bit, and I just wanted to bring that up. So, you know, I haven't seen too much activity except for this group that's coming into the facility program.
Do you know the name of the group?
It's an orthodontics.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they're going to sell at the pool party, but come and find out.
Target market.
It's a saturated market.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so, and, you know, it's other things too, right? So, any kind of like digital marketing we do, we'll have their logo, that kind of stuff. It's pretty low key. So there's some benefits there for that. But that's the first thing that we have someone that's come forward with that we've accepted.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
Is that something that's new to this library, opening up for sponsorships?
Yes.
And then are there places that you've seen examples of this working well? Or, like you said, maybe problems that you need to like watch out for?
The only other...
Or is it like generally new for most libraries to open up sponsorship?
I think it kind of depends. Like, so sponsorships in general aren't new, right? We've always done like in kind.
Yep.
And so, like summary, it's always the good example of summary, right? So you finish and maybe you get a prize that's like a 2-for-1 at the somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like those kind of prizes, or some food coupon that a local organization donates to us. But to actually give money is a little bit new.
Okay.
And I'm not too familiar with other libraries that have kind of gotten into this in this way. It would be more common for a special district, because they don't have really any of the same rules that I have to follow.
Okay.
They can make their own.
Yeah.
Is this not sort of a function of how it's been put under with other departments that do naturally have sponsorship?
Correct.
So then they just figured out, since they put you there, that
Yeah.
look at. So it's really kind of a runoff.
I think so, and I think that the bigger picture of it, I think, is seeing if sponsorship grows in part maybe by having the library there. So someone may want to sponsor recreation and culture in a larger way because they see library, and then the other things, right? And so whether it's a direct sponsorship of the library, it may or may not be, right? And we're not really, I mean, I shouldn't say we're not looking for money in this way, but any support is great. But since it's just different for us because it's not a part of our budget, of our operating budget, as it is with recreation. They have their expenditure budget and they have a revenue budget that starts out at 0.
Yeah.
And they have to get that. So that makes it different. So maybe we're helping them. I don't know. But, yeah. Like I say, it's new, it's uncharted territory.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind
For
of
sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm being pretty clear with the powers that be of what I think will work and won't work. I mean, we did have an organization come forward that wanted to sponsor something, again, summer reading, and I just didn't feel it was a good fit. Not necessarily about the organization, but what they wanted to do. Which included tabling in the library, and I think basically when I said that can't happen, I think that it became like, okay, this maybe isn't a viable sponsor then, because that was important to me.
Right, like the last thing you would want is a sponsorship to kind of compromise the integrity of the library.
Yep.
That's my main concern,
Yeah.
is that if we're playing that game of one of these things are not like the others.
So maybe a policy written so
Aligns
that
with the
you
vision.
kind of have a defense.
Yeah, I think a sponsorship policy is a great thing for any organization, even 501c3s, to have, to just know that if you
For
are,
protection.
it must align with your mission.
And so if people are like, why are you, shooing us out? You can just say, here's our policy, and that's the reason why. So it's not personal.
But where those other departments are more transactional, right? They're used to that model, residents are used to that model of, I pay for my membership or I pay for my admission and then I get to
Yeah.
enjoy the thing. Libraries are not. Libraries are seen as maybe having more of an ideology or philosophy
Yeah.
than some other institutions. And so you just want to be careful that entities who might be seeking to sponsor you because
Yeah.
they want some influence on your ideology.
Right.
Just-
So I think it's
Just
good to have a
your
policy
fear.
just ahead of time, so
Mhm.
it's not about anyone in particular, it's just clean.
And there is a policy that exists, but I
Yeah.
think it's a good question because it's definitely not a library policy. It's probably just a sponsorship policy.
Yeah.
But I
Guidelines or criteria.
exactly, yeah. So this is why I bring this forward, so you guys help me think of the good questions to ask. So far, there hasn't been.
I will say, for the 501c3 I work with, one of the benefits of being housed in a city building is that because we're in a city building, the city has a firm no politics policy.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of blame the city if I, have to break it to somebody, and then it also require to see any materials they're going to be handing out in advance. Again, kind of mainly screening for, well, that's what I say, screening for politics, but then it gives you kind of a chance to see as well if there's anything. But I think that the city policy of no politics in the building is a really firm ground to start with.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a good point. Just, I mean, some of the policies that aren't directly about sponsorship, but they're just city policies, would affect it.
You said this was the first one you accepted. Did you have others that?
There was one other proposed it was a larger package that included the library, and the library was pulled out of there at my request. Nothing like it just didn't make sense. And,
Yeah, what's the tea here?
huh?
I was just curious. Like,
Yeah.
what's the gossip here?
I'd love to, if we could move to the reports. It is 8:30 and just want to be mindful of everyone's time.
So that's me again, of course. 'Cause it's,
Whoever has.
I know. So I'm gonna jump just only because we did strategic plan, but I wanted you to know it's up on the website
Oh, nice.
in a nice presentable way. It's very easy to find. I think I don't always say that about our website, but if you come to the library's homepage and go to About the Library, and it's right here, strategic plan. And the way our communications person did this, which I like, besides the graphics, but you get a quick summary here of it, our new mission, vision, core values, the priorities that we have and what those are, but not in great detail, but then you can get the entire full color PDF of it. So again, if it's something you're inclined to print out or share with people, then you can kind of see everything in here and how it's laid out. All the same content that I presented here before in a boring Word document is just now with pictures and graphics.
This happened since last month.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah. So, please, that now you know where it is, and so it's not anything you have to find or have me send to you or anybody else. So, the other thing that we're doing internally with the strategic plan is all the individual departments within here, right? So children's services, adult services are working on individual department goals, some of which some goals they have had or have that already fit within the strategic plan, and then some of them they're rethinking or adding some new ones that kind of fit more within the vision that's laid out here. That's just something we're doing internally. We'll talk about it as an entire staff when we do an all-staff in-service day in August is the current plan, and we will talk about this as a staff and really thinking about how we are going to implement this over the next 5 years specifically, because as you know, the plan itself is pretty broad, but it's very much outcomes based, and that's really how we're going to function over the next 5 years. Should I move on? It's just director's report.
Should he? Yes.
Well, I didn't leave any room for questions, but I'm just being cautious of the time here. Well, the other thing, so I didn't realize these got put out, but it's fine. I was just hoping to be the one that could give you the sneak preview of the new summer programming that's coming up that we just printed. I mean, all of these are on our website now, so it's not like it's a secret.
That's right, you got the
I
advanced
did,
copy.
I get.
You get the advanced copy.
Yeah, that's right.
Bonus bookmark.
So certainly take this, look through it.
Can I get one of those bookmarks? I don't need the book. Thank you.
You can see some new things that the Book Chatter podcast that we have been doing for a while. A new feature that we're talking about is having an opportunity for the public to come into that podcast and share books you've read and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. Of course, the summer reading starts up. Pool party is May 22nd. That's open to anybody and everybody. So I'm not going to go through everything in here. I was trying to see what else is, or someone else's. Maybe it was a pool party. But anyway, lots of cool stuff coming up. That was that. Okay, and then the next thing, well, that's my director's report. Sorry, I just realized the next topic's a different topic. But should I move on or not? No rush. If you have questions.
Yes, you may.
So the next topic on here is the libraries in the news topic that we always have, and specifically on legislation. Well, it says legislation and funding because of things going on at the state and national level. We've talked a little bit about some of these before. So first, the good news, if you didn't know, so there were two bills at the state legislature one, was a bill to help better protect school libraries from censorship of reading materials. Public libraries already benefit from this from last year. The school version was written and passed last month. So now school libraries are protected from the same thing. This is very good. The other bill was this sort of restricted on database access. It was this, basically the way the bill was written, as you might recall, it was any article within a database that either had an advertisement and or an embedded URL, which is pretty much anything that you would access. Anyway, it made it out of the committee, then it kept getting installed within the House, I think, the state House, and people who were original sponsors of the bill backed out, which is good because one of the legislators that backed out was Julie Joseph from Boulder County, who originally was behind it, and then I think, and again, this circles back nicely to the voices that you have and public have, that enough people wrote to her and said, you should never be behind this, and so she pulled herself off of sponsoring the bill. So the shorter story is that bill it failed, which is good.
So it's dead.
It's dead. It's dead. The thing that was a little disturbing about it, and I think only because the proponents had such a strong force and they got new sponsors in and they started getting a lot of followers. So it was not by a wide margin. It only lost 33 to 31. The Longmont representative voted against it, so that's good too, as far as Longmont and Boulder County. But the important thing is it's dead, but it's a little concerning that a lot of people still felt that was a good idea. As I've said before, in short, it was basically a way of, it was a method of censorship, but for electronic access. So that's why it was a huge problem. And written in a way to make it sound like we're keeping children safe. So, but really you're just preventing research access. So it's gone. The other topic is, and where do I have this? LSTA, IMLS and LSTA, which I can't remember if we talked about this before. I think I included this document that's on the screen on federal funding as it pertains to the state of Colorado, and then LSTA funding. This whole IMLS thing that's going on, it gets really wonky quickly as far as how it affects the state library. And people have certainly asked, myself and Steph, like, does this affect you? Well, it can indirectly. Our general budget comes from the city. There's no federal dollars that would impact that. But there are things that can, and so we rely on the state library for a certain number of things, as does any library. And a lot of it is listed on this document, where if you scroll down, you kind of get into all the literacy programs, a bunch of school stuff. If you looked it over, great. If you haven't, you should. But basically, and I know I'm moving fast here, but the state gets a little over $3 million a year from the feds through IMLS. So what if that actually goes away? That will reduce the state library to like a few people on staff. It'll almost cease to exist in a way. It won't, but it'll be very different. A lot of things would change. With the Colorado budget where it's at, which is not good either, it doesn't look like there'd be any way for the state of Colorado to make up for any lack of federal funding. So that's very concerning because they do a lot. Some people have also asked me, because we do get a federal grant. Well, it's not a federal grant. It's a grant that I thought also was federal, but it's a state grant. Every year we get this state grant to libraries, which gives us some more dollars to help pad our collection budget a little bit. That's actually a state grant, and so that doesn't really have an immediate threat, and it's not really tied to IMLS or LSTA at the moment, so that should be okay. But like a lot of things going on at that level, everything kind of feels like a moving target. No one really knows. Every day changes. One good thing, I don't know if it's a good thing, it's just nice to have, is our state librarian is the president of the national group of state librarians.
Oh,
And so what that means is she gets firsthand information a lot quicker than maybe most people would, and has opportunities to have a voice, and has met with some federal legislatures at this level to really get like 20, 30 minutes of their time to quickly spout on why all this IMLS funding matters, and that you really shouldn't just yank it out from everyone's under feet. So I don't know if any of that made any sense. I can tell you that in a meeting that I had with her, she'll start off like laying out the funding streams and everything with the state versus, and probably within 2 minutes, it's like, I have no idea where money is coming from. So it's really complicated.
But one of the issues that in one of these handouts they were talking about was the fact that some of the stuff that the executive order seeks to put on pause is really stuff that's not necessarily, it's statutory, so it says you have to do this.
Correct.
So what, if anything, is anyone looking into that, or?
Well, our state librarian is,
Yeah.
and one of the concerning part about that is one of the statutorily required aspects of IMLS are LSTA grants, which we do get. It's just that this library isn't directly affected by it. However, the state of Colorado, I should say, is affected, or should be protected by that nature, as are other states. Well, they just found out a couple weeks ago or so, this is one of the meetings that we had with her, 3 states, I think it was California, Connecticut, and one other state, had their LSTA grant funding removed immediately without reason. Well, that should be statutorily required. And I don't think she still knows the answer as to where that's coming from. That doesn't make you feel so good about who's next.
Right. Although it does seem like ultimately it would be something like the state attorneys general would all get together and say.
And they are
this is you know, but then it means a lawsuit and this and that.
which is happening.
Yeah. So there is some in this.
Yep. Yeah. I think our state, that's one of them that's behind a lawsuit.
Our state?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a lawsuit.
Well, I know there's a lot of actions that
Oh,
they've
yeah,
all
there's some
they've all
actions,
gotten
for
together to do,
Yeah.
but so this is on somebody's radar.
Yeah, oh yeah. Clear as mud. So, I mean, as I find things, or if you find things,
Right.
you know, I mean, I'm trying to stay on top of it for my sake, for your sake, for my staff, especially staff who are fielding questions from the public when they ask this. So, I've shared a lot of the same information with them. Tried to give some very basic talking points about it, or at least give people information where they can look it up. Also, information from a national nonprofit called Every Library. They're an advocacy group, and they're doing a lot of work. They're busy now, right? But they are a good source to learn about this. Of course, you know, they're obviously pro-library, so they give you the library side, but if it helps talk about it, you know, if people ask you or you want to talk to others, it's a good place to look it up and kind of, they do a good job on the Every Library website of summarizing these things, like, what will it mean, you know, that kind of stuff, and as does ALA.
I was just gonna say, in ALA,
Yeah.
I notice is messaging daily, probably
Yeah.
several times a
Yeah.
day, that
Yeah.
if you know, if you can, to contact your legislators, contact your representatives,
Yep.
and, you know, assign any number of petitions to make it clear all the way up the ladder that we need our libraries.
One of the links embedded in the minutes for last time links to one of those. It links to a place you can immediately sign a petition.
Yep.
And then you get an email back saying, here's how to generate contact with your legislator and what to say. So that's a really nice tool too.
Any other reports from friends or council to be shared at this time?
So I did go with the Northwest Mayors and Commissioners Coalition to DC earlier this month. And our charge for that trip was to advocate for federal funding for transportation. So Front Range Passenger Rail, the work that we're doing for Vision Zero for multimodality. And we met with several state representatives and senators from, we met with all of our senators, but we met with not just our representatives, but our Representative Neguse, but other, from Westminster, who service other, because it was a group of us that went. And then we met with staff, transportation, we met with USDOT. And, as we are advocating for, okay, first of all, and I said this over and over again, this is our taxpayer dollar. And we are your constituents, and our constituents who come to us are demanding that this money that we pay into taxes be used for this, this, and this. These are our priorities. So, it makes me not want to pay taxes. I am not a satisfied customer.
You don't have to worry because there's no one at the IRS
Yes,
to collect it.
follow up. So really it was like, okay, well what? And so the pushback I got from administrative staff was that, we have to follow what the administrative agenda is and what this administration's priorities are. And I said, you don't want roads, you don't want, and so there were certain things that raised red flags as, you're applying for these grants. And for transportation, if you include bike lanes, I guess they don't like bike lanes, so that's not part of the administrative priorities. Anything that includes equity, inclusivity, or diversity is an automatic no. So looking for other ways. So I even asked, the term multimodal, that was actually frowned upon.
In what context? Multimodal.
Handicap.
So, I think of multimodal, people who are using the roads to walk, to ride bikes, to drive a car, but what that could imply is equity. So we can't have that. So I asked, what words fit the priority?
Macho.
Because we'll make it work. We'll make it work. And economic driver, families, so anything that kind of, focus on the family. I'm like, okay,
Some interpretation of family.
family, yes. But I'm like, we'll keep it general. So it was interesting,
Not
as you're applying for these grants, because language matters. And whether, I was having a really hard time.
Yeah.
I was like, my teeth are just worn to the gum because of grinding my teeth so much.
She goes to Washington.
Yeah.
I would love to be a fly on the wall.
So oh my gosh. Of course, I was pack my stuff behind wherever I went. But it was Phil was from our transportation. So, Susie, you forgot your salad. Susie, you forgot your bag. Susie, you forgot. Let's just go. So looking at what kind of, as these federal grants are being filled out, making sure that we're avoiding maybe target words or what that language is to ensure that we are. And it's shameful because it's, that's what library is all about. It's equity. It's bringing in that piece of people who don't have access to buying their own books. They have access to this.
Do you feel like that's like a 180 from the way it used to be?
Yes.
Like maybe, it used to be, you had to have all those inclusive words.
Yes,
And
yes.
now it's like, absolutely can't have,
Uh-huh.
you
So
know,
we're
maybe.
still gonna have our same
Now,
goals,
couldn't they have just like
vision.
shifted it like 90 degrees that they have to go 180?
180,
You know?
so it's like everybody's scrambling to try to figure out what this means. And safety is another, so.
Another editorial comment. The DEI initiatives had a logic bit.
Oh, I love the DEI.
I haven't seen the logic yet.
No, you're right.
Exclusion. It's just, let's eliminate it just because. Editorial,
That was my
sorry,
2 cents.
editorial comment, sorry.
I went to the Friends meeting, and so one, I can also probably tell you more about everything that I'm about to update everyone on. But the big thing is that the annual meeting is Saturday, as Wanda mentioned. So if I'm going to be there. Katie, you said you can't make it. Is that right? Okay. If anybody else wants to
I'm
come,
going just as a member of the Friends.
great.
Barbara's been sorting books. She's been
Yes.
great on Thursdays. Yeah, she's been down in the dungeon doing.
How long is this retreat?
Just,
From
it's just
1
a
to,
3.
One
It's
to
just very
3.
short. It's just going to
Okay.
be a.
so,
We won't have any. There won't be any voting. We've
okay,
had some little bit of controversy, but we've.
okay.
But anyway, we are no voting, and it's
Okay.
just basically celebration of what's been going on for this year.
Okay.
And John's going to speak, let everybody know what's been going on, and we have a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to do, and so yeah.
The Thompson Park grand opening is also at 1 o'clock.
Last year it was Cinco de Mayo, Susie.
I know, and
this
that's
year-
why I love that. So I'm gonna go to that first, and
Okay.
then I'll come
Run
over,
over.
and I'll come over. Yeah.
Well, we just,
Yes.
if you can,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
appreciate it.
No obligation to this.
No, yeah. You don't
Well,
have
last
to
time I was
speak.
really
You don't
sweaty
have to
because I was
speak.
running one of the booths. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's, I think the Friends, I've been a volunteer for several years, you know, and this is my first step out into a role as president, but it's such a cool organization, and I just love it so much. And all the volunteers spend so many hours with these books, and we're trying to branch out into figuring out other ways to raise money rather than just books. So we're down on one of our book sales this year. We usually have a May sale, but it's so close to our March sale.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was, and it's so many man hours to run one of these sales. So I'm actually going to talk to you, Susie, about some ideas we had about using the rec center. But anyway,
Okay,
that I
yeah.
digress. But anyway, so we'll have our next book sale in September, and we are all going to offer a tour of the dungeon if anybody's interested after our 1 to 3 opportunity. Maybe take people down and show them what we do downstairs, so people can see.
Yeah.
So the mountain of books that we have and how we do it. And this is a community of readers, and I think people need to see that. This is a community of readers, and they donate their books. And when people say, oh, people aren't reading books anymore, don't listen to them. Do not listen to them, because we get thousands of donated books. And they're not just fiction. I mean, that big room back there will be filled with all the nonfiction books, because this is just huge numbers of just everything you can imagine. It is amazing. I love this community. Just the diversity and the it's just an incredible community. I love everyone. It's amazing.
Those bins out by the east door,
Yeah.
they're full every day.
Mhm.
Every time you
More
come
than
in, they're
more than
full.
once a day.
Yeah.
Well, I do the Tuesday sort, it's Tuesday morning, and then we have a Thursday sort that Barbara participates in. So we have two sort days. Plus we have our bookshop every day. So
Mhm.
yeah, and those ladies are amazing. They
Yeah.
fill those shelves every day. Yeah. Anyway, that's.
I mean, that was most of it. I mean, other than that, they hired a web manager. That's a big exciting.
We're trying to branch out into Facebook, trying to increase our, a little bit out there. And I know everybody's going away from Facebook. We're getting into Facebook, but yeah. Anyway.
And then this is probably this was just something I was curious about. The May sale was canceled. I thought something was interesting that the Friends mentioned. That were going to be down about $10,000 from that sale. Like that's normally something that would bring in about $10,000. But that they were still going to be able to like support all of the library's requests, which I thought was interesting. I don't know a lot about the Friends financials or anything like that, but I'm curious, especially given what we talked about today about not asking for enough from the city in previous years. Like, is this library asking for enough from the Friends? And like, I don't know if I'm just like sticking my thumb into something I know shouldn't, but.
Well, John's very clear that the Friends promote literacy, so we do everything about literacy. So that's why author talks, anything that's promoting literacy. But John can't ask us for like supporting an employee.
Right,
We
or
can't pay
collections.
We can't pay for that, and we can't pay for like, we can't buy books, right? I mean, that's not, we could.
Yeah.
But we have to be really careful because Harold would all of a sudden start thinking that we're a line item
Right,
in the
yeah,
budget.
Well,
exactly.
they can do it.
It's really, we have to be really careful about that, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we have a very, we have a good budget, a good amount of savings in our, we're not like operating on a shoestring. Because we have been operating for 40 years and we're very good with our money and investing and so forth. But, you know.
And it kind of comes in waves a little bit when we request funding. So big chunks are certainly in the summer. And then we'll have some months that are a little bit quieter. So on average, that's why, I mean, you don't want to lose an opportunity. But I think probably what will happen is the starving book buyers who missed May will buy that much more in September.
Right.
We started taking credit cards. And it almost doubled our sales.
I remember
By taking credit cards with that bookshop.
you have at least two of the sales in the past 12 months, like exceeded. So again, there's like probably a scenario in which, you're going to have as much as you've had in the past. It's just not going to be.
And we're going to replace that book sale, the main book sale, with a few pop-up book sales.
Right.
So we're going to be having more book sales. But anyway, yeah.
And then the only last thing was that there's a discussion of needing more volunteers for things like heavy lifting and things like that. So I'm going to bring all my friends and we're going to start volunteering for all the heavy lifting. But if anybody else has people.
What's that?
Literal
heavy lifting. I mean, I can lift a box.
Well, the book sales are no joke, right?
Right,
'Cause
right.
They got like a pallet jack and they love that thing up the ramp.
Wow.
So people knowing when you want to volunteer.
Oh my God.
That's what we need, Nicole, new young bodies.
I've got a husband.
You'll volunteer his
Yeah,
job.
exactly.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming to this meeting.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Good. I love when our boards interact. And so are there any comments, sort of like we are at the end of our agenda items? We have a minute or two maybe, if you want to be out by 9.
There's
just keep
also
going.
an inclusion in the packet about a city ordinance about conflicts of interest, that was for information, just awareness.
Yes, that if you had any, or, where, types of situations where there might be one, if you had a business that stood to profit for certain decisions that the library made.
But that's new too.
It's been a few months, it's been a while.
Every year,
I think
or
it's-
every year.
Yeah.
Last year, my
Yeah.
first year,
Yeah.
it came up just as sort of like, just as a reminder. This is, there was a code of ethics, and
We have updated
just so
it
we're
and-
all aware, because we have new people joining. Right. I'm not going to be able to be at the next meeting as scheduled, so I need to either ask this board to consider meeting a week earlier, or I need to ask our vice chair if they would be willing to facilitate this meeting on my behalf. And press open to preferences, or I can, you know, what folks are not able to do.
So that date, if you moved it, would be to,
We couldn't move it forward because the following week is Memorial Day, so it would be, we'd have 3 weeks in between meetings, which is a little short, but we've done before.
So it'd be May 12th instead of the 19th.
Yes.
Who's the vice chair?
what is so enthusiastic.
I'm happy to do
Wasn't
either.
gonna call you
I
out.
mean, I think we should do it with Jamie because she's crucial.
I am not asking this
Essential.
board to like prioritize me being here. If it is not convenient or we can't reach a quorum on the 12th, then I have full confidence in you, Nicole.
I have no conflict with either, so I don't.
Okay, I think like for best practice kind of thing. I mean, if there was a quorum issue based off people saying I'm gone too or whatever, that would be one factor. But outside of that, it's probably better to keep it on schedule. But it's still the board's decision. I don't make that decision, just to be clear.
I'm fine with keeping the date.
Do we have enough people that are
Yeah.
should like to be performed?
I move that we keep the date and ask Nicole to facilitate.
Second.
Thank you. All right, and this meeting is adjourned at 9:02 p.m.